Hello everybody, welcome to another live recon on Twitch, and today we are going to be continuing our look at the D-Day and Operation Tonga. The area that we're going to be looking at is we've looked into the glider landings that happened around the bridges at Ranville and Benouville, and we got to the point where the bridges had been captured and ham and jam had been sent out on the radio. So today I'm going to quickly run through what the other events happened at this time during the day, just to wrap up what happened during at the actual bridges. So we're heading towards Ranville, and the time when the gliders landed was around about 16 minutes past midnight. We've just come across here, you can see, we'll find the Optica here, and we just come across the gap in the Kalberg, which was used by the RAF to fly in supplies for the resistance and fly out agents through this gap. So they used this gap to insert the gliders. And we know that the gliders got hit the ground at the bridges at 16 minutes past midnight because several watches stopped at the time. So on the bridge, let's just run back through. There was a guy, it was Private, I think his name was Roma, and he hears the crash, but he assumes that it's a piece of a crippled British bomber that has come down, and which is a fairly common occurrence at this time. And so he just continues pacing on the bridge. Within, I'll say, seconds, minutes, maybe a minute, 2 minutes, the people in the glider realize that they're okay, and they start to bail out. This is the bridges here. We can see Horse Bridge on the river, and Pegasus Bridge right now on the nose of the aircraft. So Bailey and two others head to the pillbox, and Brotheridge gathers and the remainder of his platoon and ran across the bridge. Number 2 glider lands. Using its parachute to avoid the hitting number 1, and Oliver Boland swerves as he's on his landing, and this breaks the back of the glider, and it comes to the edge on the comes to the rest at the edge of the pond. So let's just get an overview here. So he comes to the rest on the edge of the pond. Sergeant Wood is thrown out at this point of the glider, and he gathers his platoon and moves towards Howard, who is on the sort of Howard's in this area here, where my cursor is there, and he's rallying, organising all the troops as they come out of the gliders. Howard gives Wood what's known as number 3 task, which means he's to clear the trenches on the northeastern side of the bridge. So there's a series of trenches along here protecting the bridge on this side. So that's Wood's task. Number 3 glider lands using it, shoots heavily, and Dr. Vaughan is thrown through the cockpit and knocked out for almost 30 minutes. And 12 men get trapped in the glider, and one of them is drowned in this pond. The 3rd glider is around about this area here. So he's becomes the only casualty of the landing. So Private Roma, he's on the bridge. He's the German sentry. He sees the paratroopers and he runs west to the left here, shouting paratroopers at the sentry at the west end of the bridge. And that sentry pulls out his Verni pistol and fires a flare into the air. Lieutenant Den Beveridge, he shoots this guy who fired the flare and kills him. This is this guy. This is Den Beveridge. And Bailey has thrown grenades at this point at the pillbox, which is in this area here. And they're trying to make sure that the Germans don't blow up the bridge. The resistance, so the Cafe Gonde, which is on this side here, they've been hosting Germans. And they, just by listening to their talk, and Madame Gondre, who could speak German, but didn't tell the Germans, found out that the triggers for the explosives were held in this pillbox here. And they managed to get that information out through the resistance channels, which go, I think, went through the maternity hospital and then to the resistance in Caen, and then back to the UK by radio. And so within 24 hours, Broadmoor knew the information. So Beveridge is crossing the bridge. He throws a grenade to the right-hand side. And oops. So he throws a grenade. I'm just going to try to the right-hand side as he's going across. But he gets shot in the neck. The machine Gray knocks out a machine gun with his Brem, and Parr crosses and moves off to the left. Moves up to the left. So a few defenders. Mainly the German NCOs actually put up a bit of a fight. Most of the others run away. Lieutenant Smith has damaged his hand. and I believe either in the landing or it was a German stick grenade as it was crossing the bridge. We know that one of the Germans in the town of Benouville was disturbed in, let's say, taking some French lessons. He runs back he hears the fighting on the bridge. He runs back into Benouville, which is this town here, and fires off all his ammunition, either as a warning or as a way of proving to his NCO he had put up some sort of fight. Remember, most of the NCOs are German, but the troops are more likely to be like Czech or Russian. All right, so so let's change the time. At 19 minutes past, we have Brigadier Nigel Poet lands. He's flown in with the Pathfinders. This is drop zone N, which we see before us here, and he lands. Is disorientated from the drop, but here's Denbrovich's Bren, or the firing going on off on the bridge, and so he can orientate himself to that. So 20 past 20 past midnight, gliders 5 and 6 land, as we discussed in the previous recon. Glider 5 lands here, and number 6 lands up here. And very, very quickly take the river bridge, which is one up top left of the screen there. Sergeant Thornton is the guy. He lays down a mortar on a machine gun position. It opens up on them, but they reach the eastern side of the bridge easily, which is the right-hand side, left-hand side, and the sentries all scatter off, presumably running towards Ranville, which is here. And we know that the bridge is subdued within minutes. In fact, by the time that glider 5 has come up to the bridge has already been taken by glider 6. So Dave Wood is by this time has cleared the trenches on the eastern side of Pegasus Bridge. He is as he moves back, he's actually hit in the leg. So we're talking probably somewhere an hour, probably about 22 minutes past on the river bridge. there is a patrol herd. And it's on the eastern side. Now, presumably it's around in this area here. They the patrol coming in is challenged. There's no answer to the challenge, and the section on the side opens up on them, and it later turns out it was a group of 3 Germans, and they were escorting a captured British paratrooper Pathfinder, and they were bringing him in. So the Pathfinders had landed in this area, and the Germans had captured him, was bringing him back in this direction when the guys on the river bridge challenged and shoot them. So the Pathfinder is killed, I'm afraid. So at 22 minutes past midnight, so we're only a few minutes now, literally sort of 6 minutes in, Howard now sets his HQ in a trench on the northeast corner of the bridge. And it's at this point where he hears the news that Brovage was down. He knows that Wood is also out of action, and Lieutenant Smith has lost his wrist or hurt his wrist. So he knows at this point all 3 of his platoon leaders are out of action. Smith's kind of carrying on, but it's obvious that he won't be in action for long. Jock Nielsen comes up to him and reports that there's no explosives underneath the bridge, and that the sappers have removed all the firing mechanisms. And this is the point where he gets the information conveyed to him that the river bridge has been captured, and so he starts asking Tapperton, his signals of Sergeant Corporal, to send a message to Poet. But Poet, who has landed to the north east, his radio guy is missing, and so he doesn't receive the message. This is the Hammond Jam. So Howard's main mission, the Poet's been told, is to leave a squad or a platoon, whatever he can, at this bridge here, and to concentrate all his defense on this bridge here. Their main worry would be a counterattack by the Germans coming from this area, to the south and southwest. And also Howard knows that the main drop is behind him to the east, so he knows that his reinforcements will be coming from this direction. And at this point as well, Willie Parr, he comes once they've got established that the bridge is okay. He then makes his way back across the bridge and to the gliders and starts looking for Piat. Pitt's anti-tank guns that are in the gliders. All right, so let's about 1:45. So that's where we got to in the last recon. So now we move on. 1:45. Dr. Vorm, who's crash landed in this, knocked out in near this pond. He regains his senses, and although he's a bit dazed, and there's lots of reports of him not being fully aware of what's going on. He moves up towards the bridge and starts treating Brotheridge. But it's obvious that Brotheridge has received a mortal wound. He gives him morphine, but he dies. So let's move the clock again. At 10 minutes to 1, Howard hears some bombers at around 400 feet. And to the north and the east, the Pathfinders start firing flares. To guide in the next drop. Howard talks about seeing the German searchlights moving around to the north and northeast, and he then starts watching the site of the paratroopers landing at drop zone N. So they came in from this direction, and it's a pretty obvious drop zone. So they're at 400 feet, which isn't much lower. It's probably around about this. They fly across here and boom, 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 boom. They're all dropping in this area. And Howard, well, this is how close he must believe he is, because he can see them from here, from this point, and he begins to blow a whistle, blowing the ... dash, which is the V for victory sign, and in order to help the paratroopers to orientate themselves. It also gave a clue to Brigadier Poet and everyone that it meant that the bridges had been captured. And this so this is at 10 minutes to 1 on the 6th, and it would take the paratroopers 30 minutes to organize themselves and get themselves in significant numbers across to the bridges. So at 8 minutes to 1, Brigadier Nigel Poet arrives at the bridges. And he comes, so Brigadier Poet arrives. And at this time as well, they believe that they can hear, well, they say tanks and lorries, but let's say armored vehicles, or some armored vehicles and lorries, and they could hear them in Benouville and Le Port. Now this is Benouville here, and Le Port is this. It's kind of hard to see, but it's probably this area here. You can see the church here. This would be the church main area of Le Port, and then Benouville is in this sort of area here. At 8 minutes to 1 as well, the guy Richard Todd lands. He's one of the first people out of his aircraft. He lands. Richard Todd is the guy who goes on to play. He's an actor. He goes on to play Howard in the Longest Day. He rendezvous with Colonel Pinecoffin, and they managed to gather, he believes, about 100 of his 350 men, and he can hear Howard's whistle, so they immediately set off for the bridges, and they say that it takes them about 20 minutes to sort of get themselves organized and on the way. And he puts it down at a time at 10 minutes past 1. At 1:15, Howard's completed his defenses arrangements. He's got Wood's platoon on the eastern side. So he's got Wood's platoon on the eastern side of Pegasus Bridge. With the sappers, and they're acting as a sort of reserve around his command post. On the western side, Beveridge's platoon holds ground around the cafe on the while Smith's platoon holds the bunker on the right. And Fox is ahead of the T-junction with Thornton, who's carrying the only working Piat. So when they say the T-junction, so we've got this area here is where Beveridge's platoon lies, and they say that there's a bunker or something on the right. It's probably likely to be these buildings here, and then a T-junction, which I would probably say is this. So yeah, so that's Fox's platoon. So Fox has come across from the this river bridge here to the Canal bridge, and he's pushed up to this T-junction here. So that was at 1:15. At 1:30 in the morning, there's reports of a tank that's moving slowly towards the bridge from Fox's position. Now, So if we believe this is Fox's position here, these troops, the Germans that are arriving are of better quality than the sentries that were on the bridge. They're from the 1st Panzer Engineering Company of the 716th Infantry Division in Benouville. And there's also the 2nd Engineers of the 716th. They're in Le Port. Now, the Germans have just a philosophy, a way of war, which is based on immediate counterattack. Now, I'm not sure where this tank or tanks, or they think it's a tank. Some say it's a tank, some say it was a Mark IV, some say it was a armored personnel carrier. There was some of the commandos said it was, I believe it was some sort of German armored vehicle with a gun on it, but we're not sure what. They approach tentatively, is what is reported, and Howard's men, they hold off. They don't reveal their positions. And the infantry are following behind this vehicle. Behind it now. What is the most likely here? We could probably imagine it coming down this road here towards Fox's position. But I'm not sure, and if anyone knows, and then put a shout out in the chat. But Thornton's basically got one chance with this Piat gun. This thing is it's not the quickest thing to be reloaded, let's put it that way. So if you fire it, you're going to have to hope that it works. He waits. He hits, he says, this leading vehicle when it was 30 yards from the T-junction. Now, this road here may be a modern one, I don't know, and so it could be that the tank is coming from this way. It's a T-junction, so this could have been converted into a T-junction. So maybe the tank's 30 yards anyway, one of these two approach roads. The tank is engaged, and the round penetrates the vehicle, and it sets off all the ammunition inside. And this has a people say that this is, a very significant shot. Even the Germans, I believe, von Luck said later in his memoirs that it was one of the most key moments of D-Day. This Piat blew up this armored vehicle, ammunition starts blowing off, and it has two effects. One is that the Germans, they were tentatively moving forward, and now they believe that the British have got anti-tank weapons. So it makes you think that these things that they were driving down were probably not tanks, they were probably something else. Anyway, they back up. and they and mistake this shot equated to a bigger strength of forces at the bridges than there actually was. And the second thing this does, this thing starts firing off and exploding for almost an hour. The ammunition is firing off, so it becomes an obvious beacon to the paratroopers to orientate themselves. And so the second tank goes back up the road, and they report that the British have got a 6-pounder gun. So this has bought the British a lot of time, because the Germans now know that they're probably going to have to wait. I got a feeling that this is the road we're talking about here. The tank goes back up this way. Okay. So, 1:30. At this time, this explosions occurred here, and 7th Battalion begins to arrive at the Canal Bridge. They are led by Major Nigel Taylor, whose company, and they cross the canal and they move. So they come across and then they move to the left. And this is the time that Major Taylor reports that the area is quiet apart from that exploding tank stroke armored vehicle. Okay. Moving the clock. 2:30. There is a report of a German motorcycle that comes racing towards the T-junction, and that's shot at. And then moving the clock again. 3 o'clock in the morning. Howard meets Pine Coffin between the bridges. And briefs him on the situation. So Pine Coffin makes his HQ on the embankment of the canal, on the edge. He says it makes it on the edge of Benouville, near to the church. Now I'm not sure what that means. Edge of the canal near to the church. I mean, it could be. This is Le Port. That's not Benouville. So I'm not completely confident of where that is. Again, if anybody knows, then leave a comment. At this time as well, Sergeant Boland, he's the pilot of the 2 glider, and he scouts south along the canal towards Caen, and he's finding paratroopers along the way and leads them, leads several back to the bridge. So so the glider pilots are helping to bring up ammunition from the gliders, and obviously there's some paratroopers are landing down in this area here, and the glider pilots are helping to bring them back towards this towards the bridge. So when 7th Battalion arrives, a D Company, Major John Howard's company, are basically now pulled. They're pulled back from the western side of the river, and they're pulled back into this middle section here between the bridges, and they basically now become a reserve. Von Luck, by the way, he's the German commander to the south, and he at this point he's pulling his hair out because he knows he's heard aircraft coming across at about 400, 500 feet, and he knows that the only reason they will be at that height is because they're paratroopers or pathfinders, or there's a drop for the resistance. So he's already instructed his people to go out and try and find what was being dropped and who's dropping, and bring them to him. Yeah, so he's at this time, his regiment has assembled to the northeast of Caen, but he hasn't had the order. He has to wait for basically Hitler to give him the order. And as we know, also Rommel's not there. And he believes that if he had been given the order straight away, then he could have isolated these paratroopers on this. He could have taken the bridges and isolated the paratroopers. At 3 o'clock, he's ordered the 8th Heavy Grenadier Battalion, a unit located north of Caen and west of the Orne, to march on Benouville and to retake the bridges. So we're talking this down. Well, Caen is all the way down here. So he's ordered. He's ordered them to move up, so you can kind of see the distances here involved. It's quite a long way, so it's going to take a while. So they must be reasonably close because they're reporting attacking through Benouville, and so yeah, they don't have any armor, these grenadiers. They attack and they inflict casualties on Major Taylor's company, driving them back into the middle of Benouville. So presumably Major Taylor had pushed quite a long way south. Now I know this is a chateau here and a water tower, I believe, is here. So believe this was also the maternity hospital. So the forces of the Germans moving up and Major Taylor's coming south. We're talking probably this area here is where the two meet. And Major Taylor is forced back. At this time, presumably, they've got these grenadiers have got reports that there's anti-tank guns ahead from the retreating Germans who push forward, and they now dig in this area to await the panzers from the 21st Panzer Division. Okay, so we're approaching dawn, and so dawn H hour, by the way, was 7:30, 7:25, some sort of time like that. But with dawn coming, then the naval barrage begins to preclude the landings on Sword Beach, and also with the light, sniper fire starts to be taken around the bridges. So two areas where sniper fire were being taken from. One of them, I think, was the church tower in Le Port. And the other was from this chateau here. So let me just so this window, a little bit sensitive, I should be able to do this. Okay, this is the chateau. I can't get it to go up. Okay, so this is the sort of area. I can't get to the window, but if you imagine this window here, the top left one, look on that very end there, is a perfect place for a sniper to get a shot at the bridge. So then the sniper fire from here is making it very difficult for people to cross the bridge. There's also believed to be an observer put on this water tower and this becomes a suspected place of a German observation post. Willie Parr, he's at this sort of area here on the eastern side, so you can just make out the chateau in the distance there. He starts returning fire, but he's told by Howard to cease firing because Howard knows that the building is a maternity hospital. At about 7 o'clock, the landing craft coming in at Sword Beach, and the naval gunfire switches to targets further inland, and so the shells start coming across over the top of Pegasus Bridge and D Company's heads. And that's at about 7 o'clock. At 8 o'clock, we get a report of 2 Spitfires, I believe, flying over. And Howard manages to signal to them that all was well. The Spitfires do a couple of victory rolls, and one of them actually drops early editions of the newspapers, believe it or not, down to the troops. 9 o'clock. In the morning, General Windy Gale arrives. This is this guy. So General Gale, Brigadier Kindersley, the Air Landing Brigade, and Brigadier Nigel Poet of the 5th Para Brigade, they marched down the road from the river bridge. And Gale had arrived at 3 o'clock in the morning by glider, and he had established his HQ in Ranville. So the Pathfinders have set the drop zone, paratroop people have come in, and then they had started clearing these areas of the Rommel's asparagus, the glider defense posts. And Gale then, this is Ranville, Ranville Church, and here's the Commonwealth Cemetery, just here. So he sets up his HQ here, and then he comes across here to speak to Pine Coffin. At this point as well, at 9 o'clock, was reports of German gunboats coming down the canal. So remember, at this time, this is Sword Beach. This is now 9 o'clock. We're talking about an hour and a half after H hour. And they're coming. The commandos and the French commandos are attacking the port of Ouistreham, which is here, and these gunboats are basically now decided to skedaddle, and they come along here. Now they are coming down this way, and the first boat gets to probably around this sort of area. Remember, there's trenches on the left and the right. They get into the range now. I believe it's Godbolt, which is a good name, but get into range of his Piat, and he fires it, which just hits the wheelhouse of the first gunboat, and that makes the gunboat turn sideways and hits the west bank. And it says with the with the stern jammed into the east bank. Well, I mean, maybe this canal's been widened at this point, but it kind of hits boomf into here. I would say it's probably either gets jammed into this narrower bit or the canal itself has been widened. This is why looking at it like this is quite useful. The second gunboat says, "Oh yeah, we don't want to see this," and they're off. And the first gunboat crew surrender. So what else we've got? And that is pretty much what happens. Let's check my notes. On D-Day, we're just going to try and find... Okay, here we go. So, bear with me. Okay, so that was at what time did I say that? That was around about 9 o'clock in the morning. So the majority of the morning, then they're sitting tight. Now, let's just talk a little bit about so let's talk about the 8th Company. Now, they left their base at Chiron. This is the Germans. Chiron is in this area over here. They let's get the plane flying and so we're going to talk about the German side of things. So Luck is becoming increasingly frustrated, Von Luck, because he knows that this is the invasion. He's basically, all he can really do is put his people on a sort of a defensive for now. Any troops that he's got that are within range of the of the paratroopers, he can order them to offensive maneuvers, but he can't move his tanks. A lot of the dummy paratroopers have been dropped, and this makes the German High Command suspicious that it's just a diversionary act. So this is when we get to Bratz is spearheading when he's pushed back Taylor's men. This is a slightly controversial part of the battle. So he is it's Oberlieutenant Bratz. He's spearheading the attack with the 2nd Battalion's 8th Company, and they arrive at the southern end of Benouville. And as we talked, they're the ones that pushed back Taylor's one. Now, there is it can be a little bit confusing, but at about 4 a.m. they drive out Major Taylor's depleted A Company, and they've moved in to Benouville from the south here, pushing back the 7th Battalion back into Benouville, and there's 2 aid posts that have get exposed. One of them is called number 32, and it was on the lower road. And then there was another one, which was number 34. Now, when they say lower road, it I mean, it could be, we're talking these 2 roads here, but one's a lower road. So it's difficult to say. It could be this one or this, I think one of these. And they get pushed back. It's hard to see. One of them is the aid post is manned by Padre George Parry, and he is and then so that's number 32, and number 34 aid post is run by Captain Westoff, and of the 225th Parachute Field Ambulance, and that's got more serious cases in it. The Panzer Grenadiers is reported entered the number 34 aid post, but failed to find the seriously wounded because they've been moved to the upper floor. They continue to the number 32, and this is where Parry is bayoneted. He tries to intervene because the Germans were attacking the wounded. And that comes from a book called Parry, the Parachuting Padre. So it's a controversial part of the battle. And Parry is an interesting name as well. We'll come across his brother, I believe, up at the Melville battery when we do that. So we, for the rest of the day, so Todd, for example, he's sent to Le Port here, and he says he has a grandstand view from here. He says he could see the bombing of the beach and the landing defenses at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and Pine coffin at this time and noticed that the fighting around the Canal Bridge was confused and almost continuous. We also have a report here that a panther threatened to overrun the position of A Company. So we're talking in Benouville. Michael McGee came out firing his Bren gun, and this distracted the panther, which gave his comrades just enough time to plant a gammon bomb on it. Now, a gammon bomb, they hadn't got any Piats left. A gammon bomb is almost like a sticky bomb. But McGee is wounded by the machine gun and died later that day. And he receives a DCM medal for it. And his citation was that McGee had complete disregard for his personal safety and largely responsible for the successful and gallant action fought by his company. Bratz Panzer Grenadiers, and they are prevented from reaching the Canal Bridge because of this. So they dig into the parkland to the south of the village and begin to target the bridge and the surrounding areas with mortars and self-propelled guns. And he waits then for Panzer Regiment 22. So the parkland we're talking about is presumably by the chateau in this area here. The Panzer Regiment he's talking about was actually stationed in the villages to the north and east of Falaise, which is way to the south. And they hadn't actually received any orders to move until 8 a.m. on the 6th. And that meant that also they had lost the ability to come up to the front at night. So they would have to do it during the daytime. And of course, then that leaves them exposed to the Allied Air Forces. Oh, Yabos. I don't know how to pronounce this. I think it's the Yabos. JABOS is what the Germans called the Allied air-to-surface attacks. In the initial order for the 21st Division, Panzer Division, that was issued by the German 7th Army, was to attack the airborne forces east of the Orne. But this was then changed for them to attack the coast to the north of Caen. And this is when we find that later in the day, elements of the 21st Panzer Division reach Lyon-sur-Mer. Pine Coffin, he's organising his defences as best as he can. So he's got, he's defending the 2 villages, as we said, either side of the bridge. And he's expecting 4th Commando to arrive from the right-hand side. And so he's occupying this village here, Le Port. And this is Major Roger Neal's B Company. And they're occupying the south half of Le Port and the wood to the north of the road junction. So we're looking at this area here. Yeah, and so he's protecting that area. He's expecting the commanders to arrive, the 1st Special Brigade, Lord Lovett's brigade. A Company, they were to the south, and towards Benouville, as we discussed, and he kept C Company as his reserve near his HQs. If he had to, he had Howard's men behind him as a reserve. And when we're talking about 7th Battalion, we're actually only probably talking about 200 people at this time because of the dispersion from the drop. And with Howard's men were about 70. So he had about 270 men at this point. And he recalls that during the course of the day they repelled 8 separate attacks from the German troops of the Grenadier Regiment 736. They report constant threat when crossing the bridges. They have French refugees trying to cross the Canal Bridge, and they were receiving sniper fire, like I said, from the chateau at Benouville, which we've mentioned, and also from the church tower in Le Port. So even though they're here, the centre of Le Port has is still under German, wouldn't say control, but snipers. So if you're in this church tower, you can obviously see down to the T junction. You can see the far side of the bridge. And remember, back in 1944, the far side of the canal, there wasn't so many trees. Quite a lot of these trees weren't there because they'd been cut down to provide wood for, rumbles of asparaguses or beach defences, things like that. So B Company, who are down in front of us here in the trees on the edge, so they're constantly using a Bren gun against the church tower to try and suppress the sniper. And they were also using German captured weapons as well on the West Bank as a 40mm German gun, which they could use again as well to suppress sniper fire from this area. So this is the sort of action that's been happening most of the day, and then we move the time along. we get to around midday. Now, at this point, bagpipes could be heard, and this signaled the approach of Lord Lovat's 1st Special Service Commando Brigade, the sort of the vanguard of it. Now, presumably, the commandos either came down by the canal or were coming in along this road here. So, from Pine Coffin's perspective, it meant that the sniper, the German activity in Le Port, was still between them and the commandos. So, even though they heard the signal, they didn't signal back, because they wanted to make sure that the commandos took caution when proceeding into Le Port. They would probably come down here, and of course, you see, if you're approaching this way, you want to make sure that they know, or are suspicious enough to know that they're still under German hands. Lord Lovett, by the way, was he was the 25th chief of the Clan Fraser and veteran of 2 commander raids, one in Norway in March 1941, and the second in Dieppe in August 1942. And they had landed on the far left side of Sword Beach. They came in wave, I think it was 3. They landed on the far. I'm not sure this part of the beach was used because the defenses were so strong. They landed more in this sort of area here, and whilst some elements of the Commando Brigade moved in and attacked the port from the west and southwest here, he pushed on in this direction, the 6.5 miles it is, to get to the bridges. Number 6 Commando was and Lieutenant Colonel Derek Mills Roberts was the vanguard, and they landed at 8:40. And those 6.5 hours, I mean, they didn't do too badly. They managed to get to the bridges eventually at 2 p.m. So at 2 p.m. They've landed, which considering that they were expected to do this journey in 3 hours, and they managed to do it in something like 5 hours. Of course, Lovett always one to have the dramatics about him. He shakes hands with Howard at 2 o'clock. And apologizes for being late. Howard replies about bloody time, and then he apologizes for the mortaring as if it's his fault. And this is where Howard says to Lovett, about bloody time, sorry about the mortaring. The bastards have got the range, but it happens to be from a maternity hospital, and I have strict orders not to disturb the inmates. Lovett pushes over the river bridge with numbers 6, 3 and 45 Royal Marine Commando, and meets up with Poet, 45 Commando commanding officers picked off by a sniper, and Poet reports that the Germans are attacking from the south and that most of the 3rd Parachute Brigade had been blown miles off course and was still forming up. Now, at this point, I'm not sure of the time, but it would be after 2 o'clock. There is a report that another gunboat approaches the bridge, but this time from the direction of Caen. So this is presumably been sent down to see what it can do. This is when Willie Parr, he managed to get the German 50mm anti-aircraft gun, which was just here on the south side of the eastern bank. So Willie was here, and the gunboat was coming round the bend down there. He fires at the boat. It hits the boat, but doesn't knock it out, and the gunboat turns around and heads back to Caen. Willie Parr has also been trying to get this gun up and running to try to take out the water tower where he believes the observation German mortar observers are, which is where that dot is there. This water tower here. So he's trying to take out these observers here. You've got Pratz's mortars probably in this grounds behind the trees, laying down mortar fire. Okay, what else have we got to say? Not sure about what time that was. I do know at 9 o'clock in the evening, we start getting more a glider arriving, and these gliders are part of the 6th Air Landing Brigade. So all day long, the sappers have been clearing any as many asparaguses and stuff and things like that, anti-glider defenses in this area. And 9 o'clock in the evening, in come the 6th Air Landing Brigade and the rest of the 2nd Ox and Bucks. And they're bringing in more heavy equipment. They're bringing in jeeps, lorries, anti-tank guns and stores. So at 9:15, Pine Coffin's 7th Paratroop Battalion, they're relieved by the 2nd Warwickshires. And
FLP Foxtrot Papa Alpha 1 2 contact press center on 120.15.
and he then pulls back 7th Battalion back from the bridge, and so he withdraws them back. So he brings back his companies. They then withdraw back across the bridge here and into Ranville, into reserve. And it's this point when they're pulling back that somebody writes the words Pegasus Bridge on a sign and fasten it to the bridge. It's the Pegasus is the symbol of the 6th Airborne Division. It's was designed by Daphne du Maurier, who was Boy Browning's wife, and they've come in, captured it, and then they're being relieved. So it's kind of like, as we're pulling back, by the way, you Warwickshires, this is our bridge. We captured it. So Pine Coffin is the last guy off. He leaves or crosses the bridge at about 1 o'clock in the morning on the 7th of June. What was so Howard? He's had 5 officers he's lost, 1 killed, 2 wounded, 2 missing. Though the 2 missing will turn up, and he's had 15 men wounded, 1 killed. Brian Prede, his second commander, is missing. He's one of the officers, and Hooper's platoon, who are all in Glider 4. And like we discussed, we know they're 8 miles to the east. So he's had, of his 4 platoon leaders, he's only got Sweeney left. 2 of his platoon sergeants are injured, and that leaves 2 of his platoons were just commanded by corporals. Let's just finish then with what happens afterwards. So he goes back. Howard now he heads back, and they head to Ranville. He almost bumps into Howard, actually, German armour around the village of Herouville. But he reports to Mark Darrell Brown in Ranville in the early hours of the 7th of June. And it's here that Prede and Hooper meet up with him in Ranville here. So we know that Hooper and Prede probably did this journey from about here all the way back, probably a bit of cross country, all the way over to here. And he's on the 7th, they're ordered to the village of Esquiville, which I believe is here, to the south. And he it is this area here that they bump into elements of the 21st Panzer Division. So and his battalion takes heavy casualties. Howard is actually shot in through the head by a helmet by a sniper, and the bullet grazes his head. And he has to pass command back to Prede at this point and they move back to the village of Heruvele. So just tot up, interestingly enough, the D Company isn't removed from the line. They just become normal soldiers for the duration of the campaign, which is a little bit of a shock because they're so well trained. You would have thought that maybe there would be a role for them in something else, but they're left in the line. D Company eventually have 58 men killed, wounded, or missing. Just in summary, Howard and Pine Coffin are awarded DSOs, and Lieutenant Smith, Sweeney receive the Military Cross. And Lieutenant Poole receives the Military Cross for his defense of the western bridgehead of the Canal, and Sergeant Thornton receives the Military Medal. And 8 of the glider pilots, including Warwick and Ainsworth, received Distinguished Flying Medals. So this is they've established their bridgehead now, and what's interesting, this is the drop zone, and there you can see here the slope of the hill. You can see this ridge. You can't really make it out from in the air, but you can definitely see it here. Oops. Hey. Sorry. This is this is the Benouville, the Breville Ridge, and even though the target on D-Day in the original plan was to capture Caen, which is down in that direction, this ridge here becomes super important because this ridge, even though it doesn't look like much, commands a view, basically, of the whole eastern flank of the Allied invasion. So, for the next 2 months, this road here, which we can see, basically becomes the front line. This is into the forest here. This basically becomes the front line because you're trying to deny the Germans this high ground, because this high ground enables them to observe all the operations that are going on in this area here. So remember that, like, in the days to come, some Bailey bridges are brought in called London Bridge 1 and 2, and they're built across the Orne to supplement these bridges. So if the Germans had this high ground here, those bridges will be vulnerable to observed artillery fire. So this road is there basically get dug in along this ridge, and it's almost like World War One trench warfare on this this height here, and this is because this area here has now become the hinge to Monty's plan. This is the hinge of the door that Bradley and Patton will kick down when they come through the bocage further to the west. And so that basically finishes up Howard's role and D Company's role in that. In the next episode, I want to talk about the Merville Battery and its significance, and on the day, just to wrap up this discussion on the eastern flank here, and then in a couple of weeks' time we'll do the same on the western flank and the US airborne landings. So I hope you enjoyed that and found that interesting. If you think I've missed something or have got some facts wrong, then leave a comment below. And otherwise, you'll find this on Twitch for a few weeks, and then it'll be moved over to Spotify. Okay, so we'll see you in the next one.